Alright, ladies and gents, second installment of line handling video here at the beautiful Daydream at night. Yeah, it's lovely here. Anyway, I've seen quite a few people a little bit confused about the Daydream bollard. They're being a bit unique, a bit different than our others. So we're just gonna have a quick look first at the Daydream bollard. And the way I think about these bollards, if you remember, we talked about cleats, your simple cleats on the side of Cobia or on Chimera. And I think about those bollards exactly just like a really big cleat. And I work them the same, okay? So, if I got the line coming from the boat, remember at the beginning, what you want to do is start always at the far end of the bollard. So if the line's coming from there, I'm going to start at the far end of the bollard. And the first thing you do is get that first wrap around the bottom, and that wrap will help you control the vessel, okay? So as you lay in your knot, if the vessel's starting to run away, you can quickly add some 8 figures and try and catch the vessel from running off too much. So first wrap, or a couple of wraps around the bottom, up to you. Take the slack off the line and then start laying your 8 figures. And your 8 figures here are going to go across the whole bollard, just like that. 1, 2, okay? And now we're going back into the principle of filling the bollard until you run out of line or run out of room on the bollard. Once that's happened, what you want to do is put a lock in the line. So again, I'm going to put the right arm forward underneath to create a hitch and bring that across over here and tug to cinch the knot. You can see here the 2 under the bridge method, okay? And you can see how nice and tidy, full bollard. Okay. Now, while we're on the subject of doing the lock, what I find is that people get really obsessed about the lock. They do it too early. So, if you were to do the lock too early, if you were to lay, let's say, 1 or 1.5, and then go straight for your 8 for your lock, what will happen here? What may happen is pressure gonna come onto the lock. So the pressure from the vessel, when the vessel drifts away with the elements of the engines, should never come onto the lock. The lock only has one purpose, which is preventing the line from unfurling. If the lock takes the pressure from the boat, it will seize and jam, making it nearly impossible to undo the knot. In extreme cases, it may lead to you being required to actually cut the line because it seizes so strongly that you can't undo the knot. That's why we always say fill the bollard first. Another mistake I see people doing with the lock on these bollards is they go and put the lock here on the horn. Now first of all, straight away you can see, doesn't matter how much you tug on it, it's quite loose, right? The lock here is rope on metal. Rope on metal is never going to grip. Your lock should be rope on rope, and it should be the same as your large 8-figure runs. So again, you put your line underneath itself to create the hitch, and you go across the middle to create the lock, not across the hole. And that's the correct way to work these bollards. Okay? So that's a little bit about that. Another thing I wanted to talk about while we're here is our set lines. Those lines are lines that has an eye spliced on both ends, and they're perfect because they're exactly the length that is required. So as long as they're on, they're very good and very reliable. The problem with those lines though is the inherent risk. So if one side is connected to the boat, the other side, when you place, I'll just take this line off, when you go and place this side of the line onto the bollard, you can see my hand is in harm's way. Can you see that?
Yes.
And because there's no give in this line, if the pressure suddenly comes onto the line, you can see where my fingers are. I'm not gonna go home with all of my fingers, all right? So as good as these lines are, there is a very big inherent risk, which is why we have those little tag lines, those handles. So when you go and clip these lines onto the bollard, you do not want to hold on to the big line and put your arm, your hand, your finger in harm's way. What you want to do is hold on to the tag line and clip it on with the tag line, okay? If you're struggling to do that, and you need a bit of assistance, you can use the other hand, but do not use your fingers, use your palm to push it into place. Keep your finger safe. As you notice, when I'm doing any knot on any bollard, I also always endeavor to keep my hands out of harm's way. I always try and hold the line a little bit away from the bollard when I work it. You might even see experienced crew really flicking lines onto bollards, which is not show off, it's just safety for your hands. Okay? So hope that all makes sense. Don't forget, guys, your safety wrap. And once we're on the subject of the locks as well, one last thing I'm going to finish with is many operations where the lines come under extreme pressures. For example, racing yachts or tugboats. They will actually ask you to never ever lock a line. This is what I've been saying, that the lock is actually not that important. What's important is to fill the bollard. And those operations, they don't want to come into a situation where they have to cut the line. So all they ask you to do is to fill the bollard up and finish with a safety wrap. And I invite everybody to try that and see for yourself that the boat is not going anywhere and the line is doing its job. So the lock, you don't need to do 2 or 3 or 5 locks. You just need to fill the bollard up, one good lock and a safety wrap, and that's all you got to do. Hope that helps. The next installment will hopefully be line throwing. Enjoy.